Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, April 5th, 2023. We're in the high school boardroom. This is the Board of Education budget meeting. I do apologize, we're a little bit late today. We had some people who were running late, some of the committee people. With that said, Ms. Lampier, can we just do roll call?
Sure. Ms. Johnson?
Present.
Ms. Darling?
Here.
Ms. Raymond is not here. Mr. Claffey is also not here. Ms. Brown?
Here.
Ms. Oden?
Here.
I'm here. Ms. Bishop? Here. And Ms. Giglio?
Here.
Yay!
Finally.
Oh, I'm sorry. And we also have Dr. Sarfty, Mr. Posca, Mr. Donovan, and Dr. Andrade. Thank you.
And also our student rep.
I'm sorry. Dante Castellano is also with us tonight. Thank you, Dante.
Okay, perfect, thank you. So tonight, we're kind of reviewing the budget. We've had great presentations here. I want to thank Dr. Andre and his staff for basically making it more friendly, user-friendly, without all the numbers, and giving us a presentation of what his vision and what each department is for and what they need. With that said, is anybody from the administration like to talk at this time?
Thanks for the candy. No. Again, I just want to express my thanks to our assistant superintendents, our directors who presented, as well as to Mr. Donovan in preparing the numbers. We're always looking at what's our academic return on investment, where's the district heading, and can we support it? So I think what we presented is a fair budget. Again, most of the increases are due to contractual obligations moving forward, but that doesn't hinder how we support our students and our educators in the classrooms every day. So again, just kind of reiterating, it's a 3.01, right, 0106, 01% increase that I truly believe that supports the teaching and learning in the classrooms every day. So again, thank you to the board for your continued support, and thank you to all the administrators who presented over the last couple of weeks. Their leadership is truly remarkable.
Thank you. Anybody have any comments to Dr. Andre's comments? Anything? No? Okay. So let's begin tonight. We just got a packet here earlier. Did you get this? This is in emails. Okay. Okay. We got a packet. I believe this is from you, Mr. Donovan, that has to do with it's 3B, plant operations budget build.
Yeah, that's just back up to the presentations.
Okay.
So there's that, there's a transportation, which gives you more detail on that. I'm not sure what else was in there.
Student enrollment for 20.
Yes,
21.
and there, Tara just sent some enrollment info. I think she was late sending it.
Okay.
She told me just as I was leaving. But there's information on enrollment, which lists the existing enrollment by school, or as of 10/1/22, actually, which is the date we use each year to compare numbers. That's the info we have to get to the state each year. And then she was also sending, and I don't think you have it, Mrs. Johnson, but it's the class sizes at each of the 3 levels. She was sending that out. She sent that out late. So if you're electronic, you may have received it. If you're not electronic, you probably haven't received it.
Okay, and I can't take my phone out because it'll get static. Because I was going to ask that about the class sizes in the schools. Okay, Ms. Leo?
I'm just looking I'm looking at the elementary enrollment, and I certainly don't know anything about most of the schools in terms of numbers, but because I have a vested interest in Broad Street, the elementary language arts kindergarten is actually incorrect. There are 46 students, but there are only 2 teachers and not 3. And so the class size is not 15.3, it's 23 students. And I don't know how to rectify that, but it's true. I was just in the building today reading to them. So that is incorrect. So if that could be fixed, that would be helpful.
That's Broad Street kindergarten?
Broad Street, yeah, there are only 2 kindergarten teachers and 46 students.
Anybody else have any corrections, questions? Okay, I guess I'll start saying, I've gone through the paperwork over the weekend as best as I could. I was kind of babysitting. And one of my questions was number of students in the classroom, which went out today. Next week, we have the public hearing, am I correct? Okay. So enrolled students for 2022 was 9824. Am I correct?
What section?
Yeah, 9824. Now we're down to 9915. I'm trying to find my papers here. I kind of folded everything over. So now we're down to 9915. Section up to.
It was sent out in, right now you're looking at the document that Tara
Okay,
sent out
that's-
this
that's what I'm
afternoon.
looking
Yeah,
at.
there's 4 documents. One is the October enrollment official count, elementary, one's broken down to elementary, middle school, and high school.
So from last year to this year, we had a few more students come on board. But here's my concern, and I hear this from a lot of people in the district, and I was mentioning it to you, Dr. Andre, coming in. The enrollment is coming down this way. Our costs are going up. The costs are going up, and I've explained to people, a lot of it's because of the contracts and benefits. But how do you justify, that's an easy answer to tell people, but the justification isn't there because the enrollment is coming down, and it's still costing us more money, even on that 15%, whatever, it's about 85% salaries and benefits, and that 15%. And when we look at it, we never have enough money for deferred maintenance because of the cost rises on salaries, which I'm not saying that people don't deserve salaries, but yet we can't get that cost where we need to do maintenance and do things in classrooms to catch up to that, and we're always falling behind. I'm going to ask, what's the solution to this?
This budget, like we said, the increases in this budget are basically in 2 places. The salaries and the benefits aren't even in here, but they'll show up at the city level. And then there's increases with contracts and utilities. They're fairly significant in this budget. Next year, we don't expect to see the increase in utilities. We're actually hoping for somewhat of a decrease. Now, that depends on a lot of external factors. But with solar being added on a number of our buildings, I think we hope to see some savings on that. We've sort of yet to see the savings, but we're hoping that will come forward sort of from now on. But we budgeted as if, since we haven't seen the savings yet, we didn't budget for that reason. So that will be a piece of it. As far as numbers of students, as we build the budget for next year, which we're going to start early, we'll see what we have for numbers of students next year. But we are going to be taking a good look at, as Dr. Andre said, the investment. And in doing that, we'll look at class sizes, we'll look at programs, we'll look at all those things and say, okay, because we have a significant number of people currently in the ESSER grant. Okay, this was the last year of the ESSER grant. The ESSER was there to help with the effects of the pandemic. We have one more year of that. We figured, okay, part of the cost, some of the things that transpired during that, we have lower class sizes than we've ever had, as far as I'm aware. Maybe 50 years ago they were smaller, but that's going to roll away, which is going to force us into looking at all these other things in next year's budget. So that was discussed, but we figured since we've got the ESSER funds for one more year, we're not going to disband a lot of things that are currently in place, but the decisions on those will be made sort of from the October to February time period next year.
Because that was one of my questions about the ESSA grants. How are we going to move the faculty and everything else, anything that we purchase, out of that and be able to keep the budget low rather than ballooning on us, especially if we have salary people on it? Because I remember last year I was asking about a nurse that was like $96,000 after with the benefits in finance, and I was saying, how can this continue when the ESSA funds goes away? How do you place a nurse that's got the salary there that you can do it because of the ESSA funds? What happens if you can't do it in the regular budget with that salary?
Yeah, so the building principals and directors already heard me say we're revenue neutral. So as we start transitioning, we will be having those conversations on what's that balance. We can't have both. I'm not coming in front of you in a year asking for a 12% increase in order to fund that. But we will be looking at things like, looking at class size, combining classes to switch a classroom teacher for a reading specialist, or at the high school, looking at the number of sections and making sure there's a good number of enough student enrollment that can we combine some sections in order to switch a teacher for another position. So the teachers have, the building administrators and directors have heard me use the term revenue neutral. So how will we get into that place of making sure we build a strong infrastructure while not increasing our bottom line? So we've already engaged those conversations. Like if you want, for example, like a 504 coordinator at the high schools, where's that coming from? And you need to provide the data on how we're going to make that switch. So as Mr. Donovan said, as soon as this budget's approved, we're going to be working on next year's budget because that's going to be our harder year.
It's nice to hear that we're being proactive versus reactive on a lot of things. Anybody have any comments, any questions? Ms. Lampier?
I have a question about something completely different, if that's okay. I was wondering about if someone could explain the psychologist staffing. I didn't really understand that one, and I was hoping, because it has the NASP standard, and then the ratio per student actual, and some of the ratios look like they're in between 500 to 700, but some of them are way off. So I wasn't sure I was reading it correctly. I don't know.
We don't have a Mr. Alexander here. At the end of the day, we know that that's a position that we need. So some of the school psychologists' caseloads are a little higher. And just the amount of referrals coming in, testing, and then supporting for students, that's an area that we know we need to expand. So we don't get into the specifics on what's the actual caseload for the school psychologists right now. We know that we have to service students a little differently, and a lot of it has to do on the assessments and testing of students in order to qualify them for special education.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it's a good add so that we can provide more services.
All right. Yeah, I hadn't seen that last year. The budget, the amount of money you have for staffing is the amount that you have in there, is that for if you were able to hire people, or is it for what it is currently with some people missing?
The way that we did it is if the person exists, they're in there in name, okay? If there's an open position that we've been trying to find, we haven't been able to find them, we budget a specific number and we put it next to it, open position. So if you looked at the staffing detail, you'll see a number of places where it'll see open position. So there's no body in there, but we budget for it.
Okay.
And then what I did this year a little differently for special education, since we've had a very difficult time finding as many paras as the budget requests each year, I put a lump sum in there. Then that can cover paras, it can be used for psychologists, it can be used for a BCBA, whatever sort of the solution is. Because budgeting for positions and then never getting them in, you're basically bloating your budget.
Yeah.
And if you know you need 70 paras and there's no way you're going to get them, it doesn't make sense to budget for 70 paras. So I sort of changed that this year, and there's a lump of money in there in the salaries. It's $450,000, I believe, and that will cover the non-budgeted positions, which are mostly para positions.
Okay.
But if the special ed director says, I don't want these 5 more paras, I want a BCBA, then it's easy to make the switch.
All right, that makes sense. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions, any comments? I have another one. In the budget, we have the estate of, in the budget. It's on page, oh, it's not. It's Nashua High School South.
Are you speaking to the detail in section 12 there?
Could be. Could be.
Scavenger hunt.
It's the beginning right after the first page where it has the details of who works in the district and the salaries and how many.
I'm not sure what you're looking at. What?
His name, because he passed away.
Okay, that just probably printed out there, but basically consider that an open position.
Okay, that's the answer. Okay, it's an open position now. Okay. Hey, anybody else want to take the floor since I've been doing all the talking, I guess?
So, okay. I was just going to say, I usually have a lot more questions in the budget, but the way this was presented this year is much more concise, and I think actually much easier to understand. So I want to thank you guys for that. I wish I had some more creative questions to ask.
Ms. Johnson, just on the last question, so what Mr. Donovan is trying to get to is more position control, right? So if you took the name out, like we're budgeting for, just for that example, 12 social studies teachers at South, right? That's going to be in the budget. So that many FTEs. So no matter what the name is, like for next year, unless we're reducing a person, we'll be budgeting for 12 FTEs. So if that name gets crossed out next year, it might be a new name, and it'll still be 12 FTEs that we would be looking for. So we're trying to get to that place so that from pre-K through 12, it is all about position control. We know how many second grade teachers, third grade teachers, and that we can kind of hold firm in the budget and allocate the right resources without a lot of trying to chase the name around the district if they move. So we're trying to get a little tighter in that system.
Thank you. Anything else from anybody? No? Ms. Oden?
No, I just want to thank administration and Mr. Donovan. This is so much easier. The way you've formatted it this year, it's much cleaner, much easier. So thank you for taking the time to make it more concise for us, and it's more readable. So thank you so much. It's appreciated.
And you don't even need a big binder this year. You can have just a little one. Who would think? Because we have next week, we have the public hearing. We vote on it the following week.
I was going to say, we probably saved millions on not having the binders.
Yeah. I know. Did you have a question?
I was just going to say, I mean, there's really not a huge increase in what the normal budget increase is. So to go over and do the budget with a fine tooth comb, I mean, you guys are already working on a shoestring budget. So looking for ways that we can reduce 0.0123% seems like, where do you find that in the binders? So no, I have no questions, but I do not wish this job on anyone. Dan, you're magical. But no questions. It was a great layout.
Okay, so we have the public hearing next week, so we'll vote on it after the budget, after the public hearing?
We've done it two ways. We've done it where we've had the public hearing and then we've come back the next week. We've also done it where we have had the vote, we've closed out the public hearing and opened up a second meeting and
Okay.
done another vote. But you can do it however you want to do it. I think the year that we did it over the 2 weeks was the year that we were really in the weeds with COVID. And I think we wanted to take a minute to absorb what the public was saying in regards to the budget. We had a bunch of new grants and stuff that were coming through, so it was just a lot more to take in, which is why I think we pushed it out. But
I think next week, we should have the public hearing and just vote on it right after. No need to come back the following week. I mean, not unless we have a big crowd, but it doesn't look like there's standing room only in here anymore. So,
Right.
So that's what I would
board with
suggest.
us now. That's a good thing.
Ms. Gilio?
Hi, I just want to add that although this is the first budget meeting I've been well enough to attend, that I did watch all of them at home live. And so I'm informed about the budget. And sadly, since the budget meeting next week is on a Tuesday night, I have an employment that I work every other Tuesday night in another state, and I will not be able to be here. So it looks like I won't get to vote on the budget. So I trust all of you will do the right thing.
Anything else from anybody? Questions, concerns, comments? Ms. Lampier?
I'm just always so concerned about when the ESSER funds are gone. And do you guys foresee any, what's going to happen to our budget then? Or are you trying to come up with creative ways to deal with it? Is it a bomb that's going to go off in the district? I think of all the incredible programs that we've started up, and I don't know what's going to be able to continue and what's not.
It's going to be difficult. I won't sugarcoat it. There's going to be a lot of high conversations, and we're going to have to be creative on how do we provide the same level of supports with a lot less money. So again, we have an incredible administration, very creative, very thoughtful, a lot of problem solving. We'll have to work with our educators, everybody in the district to really get back to what does it mean, like what is One Nashua? What are our priorities and making sure the funding is there? So there could be some difficult conversations that things have been in place for 50 years that we're going to say is, what's the academic return on investment? Is this a time that we have to prioritize a little more as the budget shrinks? So it's going to be, that's why we want to start as soon as possible, because it's going to be a lot of those conversations.
I have another question too. I was wondering how the staffing is, like the company that we hired to do the substitute teaching and stuff. I'm not really sure, how is that doing? Is it going well, or?
Pros and cons. I mean, they're definitely helping with the recruiting, the HR aspect of it. We still have unfilled positions, so there's just a number of vacancies on a daily basis. We just met with them. I think we hover around a 40 to 50% fill rate on a daily basis, which isn't higher, like high enough. But again, that day-to-day operations where they're continuously recruiting new people to come through the door and process that is very helpful, which takes a burden off our HR department. But we still don't have enough substitute teachers.
Okay, all right, thank you. Are they finding people in ways that we normally wouldn't?
They're using the same kind of mechanisms, but again, they might be at more job fairs, they're circulating a lot more, but once those, they find candidates, they're able to process them a lot faster. So they're still using social media, they're going to PTOs, they're going to community events. Our coordinator, our liaison is very active. She works really hard. I don't think it's anything new and innovative that we wouldn't do, but again, I think from the HR point of view, they're processing the substitutes much faster than our HR department would, just because of lack of manpower on our side. It's just a small department.
Anything else from anybody? Okay, so who'd like to make a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned at 6:35. Thank you, everyone.